Pain heals. Chicks dig scars. Glory lasts forever.
The WNBA has actually submitted another proposal to the players, although I don't think that they need to. But we have concerns at this point. We're going to get into the details about something I've mentioned a few times, that it's not necessarily season or no season, but there could be a shortened season. And if that is all that the league can get out of it to salvage it, they need it. The players desperately need it, because no season is a terrible, terrible option for the players that they may never be able to recover from. Oh, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. I am flat on my back. I've lost at least 10 pounds out of my nose the last couple of days. I've got my laptop burning a radiation hole through my chest. And yeah, let's dig into this. As you can see, WNBA submits latest CBA proposal to players, sources say, and we're going to get into this. But one thing that's interesting is this came like right after comment from Neka Agumake Gorbachev. She was in Nashville. There's a players only meeting with AU players, including exec committees members Brianna Turner and Alicia Clark. And I'm told the union is still waiting on a response from WNBA to their December proposal. Now, see, there again, for me, goes back to the major problem that we're having is the league obviously made it very, very clear that that proposal from the players, from the union, was a no-go. The WNBA is the only one that's made any movement. The players have put out ridiculous demands and said, yeah, this is where we are. We're not negotiating. This isn't a negotiation. We're here to get everything we want, and that is it. So I'm not sure exactly what the players want. Say here, the no response is the response. The owners have the power. Their last offer was fair. The players think they have unrivaled and B to fall back on. Neither of those leagues has a union or protections. They also can't come close to the number of players, at least right now. Plus, it's a major conflict of interest and maybe a violation of antitrust law, which is very interesting, especially considering sports have exemptions. A lot of professional sports leagues have exemptions, which I don't know that they should have, but that's a whole nother issue that gets really, down into the weeds of antitrust law. But yeah, I mean, that's something that could come back to, and we're going to get back to this article here. But first, I want to play, because this is Annie. We've got Annie and Rachel talking about the this specific proposal, or actually not the proposal, but one of the major reasons we could see, at the very least, a shorter season of the WNBA. Okay, so let's dig into this.
I've been kind of ringing the alarm. Like it's kind of time to panic. There's a lot of stuff to do, and also there's an entire free agency to deal with. There's like 100 players that are
Yeah.
free agents. Have you heard anything? Have you heard of teams starting to talk to players? I know that they technically can't make offers and such, but what have you heard on the free agency front?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of concern from a lot of league executives, sources. I'll say is that it's becoming clear that the season could be delayed. I reported this, I think, last month, that there was a belief among a number of league sources that thought if this doesn't get done by early February, the season will be delayed, because to your point, Stewie has said this, like there's so much that has to get done. And so what's going to happen is free agency in the WNBA is unique. It's always been a sprint. Historically, it hasn't been this big moment in the same way it is in the NBA. There hasn't been a ton of movement. There's a lot of reasons for that. We don't have to get into that today. But when Candace signed with the Sky, that was one of the biggest free agency moves at the time in the history of the WNBA, and that was just 2021. And so what we've seen in the years since is that January month, between like mid-January to the first week of February, free agency is popping. It's like so and so has agreed to terms here, da 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 da, and by mid-February is pretty much like
Locked,
has
yeah.
settled.
We
And so
covered
free
it last year, and
yeah,
it was like 2 weeks, but there was way less free agents than
there
there
were
are
way
now.
less free.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's the league is betting, or there's a sense that free agency has always gone super quick, but to your point, the difference here is there are so many more free agents, and so the people that are going to be most impacted, and Kalia Copper said this during like the first week of Unrivaled, is that we're not like our free agency experience is going to be impacted because how are we going to go visit teams and talk to teams,
All right, we're going to leave it there because I got a couple more minutes, but she's basically just going into more detail, the same thing. Now, I have said this before, the number of free agents is absolutely astronomical, and factor in the added difficulty that teams don't have a lot in terms of knowing what their roster is, which means neither do the free agents. So I think it actually needs to take longer because there's going to be more due diligence, shall we speak, especially from the players, because they want to know what the situation is that they're getting into. It's not just about, oh well, this I want to go to this team. They made me a great offer. Well, who's playing for that team? Which leads into the next thing that they didn't talk about here is don't forget that before we have free agency, we have to have a draft. Or then again, I don't know. Maybe no. That I mean, they can't have the free agency and then the expansion draft, because how do you sign a player to a free agent contract and then be like, oh, we can't protect them, right? So that's going to get weird too, and they're going to have certain rules because there are so many free agents. So you're going to have the protection where it's like it got to submit who we're protecting, and then you're going to have the draft between the two teams, and then you got to figure out a lot of those players drafted are going to be free agents, so you're going to have to figure out how that gets worked out, and then you have to have the free agency period, right? And then, of course, with it being the WNBA, then you're running right into the draft as well. So there is a lot for the league to do, and now they've submitted yet another proposal, which we don't have the details to yet. I've been looking and looking. This was literally submitted yesterday. Here's this thing came Friday evening. I wasn't, I mean, I've looked this morning. I wasn't doing anything yesterday. Excuse me. So it's going to be interesting, and then we'll see how long the union takes as well to get back to that. And I'm very curious if I mean, if they submitted another proposal, that means they moved even more, which I think is actually absurd. I think at this point, these players need to take the offer that was given and get the season going. Because, as I said, and I think Annie just kind of mentioned it there, I've said this numerous times, is early February was kind of like this is when it's got to be done if we want to have a season. I said now it is a possibility to have a shortened season. So that could give them a little more time, but then you're talking about starting the season. I mean, you're gonna have to start the season later. I mean, maybe the season starts June 8th or something. We lose the first entire month. I don't know if they would completely redo the schedule. I think and then and just lose the beginning games, or lose the beginning games, completely redo it so they still have a balanced schedule and so forth, because obviously some teams might end up with more home or more away, or play certain opponents a lot more because of when they fell on the schedule. So, and as NECA, again, once again, revenue share is the big thing. So I don't know that the league can move much further on the revenue share thing. I mean, I don't. It's going to be shocking to me to see if the league actually moved even more significantly from the numbers that they've already offered to the players. I think this is something the time the players got to get this done. They need look, and I know you've heard me say this before, but I'm going to say it one more time to close out this video. This would be the most historic fumble in professional sports ever if the WNBA does not capitalize on Caitlin Clark's popularity and cancel this season because the players are delusional in thinking they are the reason for this growth and that they deserve way more than the league has already offered them. Absolutely absurd. It would be a huge setback for women's basketball. It would be a huge setback for women's sports. The thing to do now is to sign the deal, prove that this new popularity has staying power, and then get everything else you want to get in the new CBA. That is how it works. But the vets don't want to do that because they will not be around for that CBA. And these younger players need to finally figure that out, step up and say, no, enough is enough. Get this deal done. We want it done now. They've got to figure out how to get new union leadership as quickly as possible. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Appreciate you checking out the video. As always, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Go have the day you deserve. Hope it's a better one than I've been having. And I will talk to you later.